Palm Beach County teachers say they've had enough, formally declaring a salary impasse after pay talks broke down. The Classroom Teachers Association is pushing for a 5% raise, and that's to keep up with the county's cost of living. But the school district is only offering right now 1.5% plus a future bonus. The union's president telling CBS 12 News the district's priorities are out of touch with what teachers need.
It just seems unfair and unjust to them, given the success the teachers have had keeping Palm Beach County School District an A-rated district, establishing 44 high-achieving schools, and getting the district the high academic performing school district label from the state of Florida that it has.
And the school district releasing a statement. It says in part, quote, "The school district is eager to implement raises quickly and is asking the union to resolve the matter directly with the school board." It goes on to say, "Our offer represents a strong effort to provide a meaningful raise without jeopardizing long-term financial stability of the district." The dispute will be handed over to a special judge who will then review both sides and suggest a fair pay plan. So if the two sides still cannot agree, the school board will then step in and make the final decision. We're seeing a lot of reaction pouring in on our social media pages. This is one, Lisa, commenting on our Facebook page. She says, quote, "As a former middle school teacher in PBC for 14 years, I can say firsthand that Florida needs to pay their teachers a livable salary. It's ridiculous that teachers aren't able to afford the basic cost of living there." Melissa, she goes on to say, "Teachers are woefully underpaid in this state. Given the cost of living in the county, it's astounding that we actually have some great teachers. Pay them." If you'd like to weigh in, just head to our CBS 12 News Facebook page.
Gordon Longhofer, G-O-R-D-A-N, Longhofer, L-O-N-G-H-O-F as in Frank, E-R, President of the Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association.
And Gordon, can you explain what we're talking about here today?
We're talking about a contract negotiation, the annual contract negotiation between the Classroom Teachers Association and the School District of Palm Beach County. It occurs every fall. Usually it's over rather quickly in the space of 3 to 5 weeks. But this year we are much more protracted in the timeline because of essentially disagreement over how much the raise should be. The only thing on the table is salary at this point.
Now, can you explain what the salary impasse is and what is currently happening in this process?
Salary impasse is when the two sides cannot agree on the number that the salary will actually increase for the bargaining unit. In this case, the difference right now between us and the district, their offer is 1.5% raise with a 1.5% bonus added on to that. Our request at currently our request is 5%. And that is the nature of the impasse right there. The district has said that their offer is the last and final offer that they have, and we are desirous of doing better than that. And under Florida law, what's left when the two sides can't reach an agreement is the impasse process, which begins when one side or the other declares that an impasse exists.
So kind of expand upon that further. What can happen down the line now that there is an impasse?
So once impasse is declared, it opens the door for the establishment of a special magistrate who would then hear the elements of the arguments of the two sides during the dispute and would come to a recommended order that they might ask both parties to consider and possibly agree on. If the disagreement still remains after the recommended order is produced for the two parties, then the entire process moves forward to the school board, the elected school board members, who will then, in their capacity as a legislative body, make a final determination on the dispute.
Now, you said before we started our interview that an impasse hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah, the last impasse here in Palm Beach County that was declared by the union was in 2010. Before that, there might have been one or two others in the previous decade, but it has been objectively 15 years since this union declared impasse against the school district over salary or any other matter.
Now, the 5% raise. Why does the union believe 5% is a fair raise?
We believe 5% is a fair raise because over the last 11 years, we have seen our salaries fall behind the cost of living for that same period of time, right at 2%. 5% would actually cover that balance or cover that distance between them right away. But as with any party, we are here to negotiate, and we have other options as well.
And just in history and whatnot, what generally is the agreed upon salary increase percentage?
Over the last 10 to 11 years, the most frequent numbers have been around 3.5%. A couple were maybe at 3 or 3.25. A couple were at 4. There was one very good year where the raises for highly effective teachers were 7.5%. We don't have those years right now.
Why do you think the negotiations got to this point? How do you think it got here?
I believe the district, start over here with this one. I believe we've gotten to this point because the district is placing a priority on funding the daily operating costs that they have, which I've said repeatedly, that's a worthy thing to do. But teachers also have their daily operating costs. And when we're looking at a raise proposal from the district that is less than what would allow teachers to build and meet their daily operating costs as they increase, it just seems unfair and unjust to them, given the success the teachers have had keeping Palm Beach County School District an A-rated district, establishing 44 high-achieving schools, and getting the district the high academic performing school district label from the state of Florida that it has.
And oftentimes, I mean, these same teachers are funding their own classrooms.
Yes, they are. Teachers frequently, when they need something additional for an incentive or maybe supplies that would enhance their instruction, they don't have the wherewithal in what is provided to them always to just go out and buy it with school funds. They'll do it with their own money and then go back and see how their budget's going to work there. That's just the dedication of teachers to their craft of growing student achievement.
And the 5%, I think, is, especially in this economy, I think that's more than fair. Because at the point, Florida teachers in general is one of the lowest states in the country. Yeah,
with Florida being on average 50th in average teacher pay, and with the state literally funding public education no better than 43rd, 44th across the country, we are in a situation where teachers have to do what they must in order to make sure that their personal financial accounts balance at the end of the day. Otherwise, we're looking at very capable, very talented, very dedicated professionals looking for other ways to make a living in order to meet their family needs. They're simply looking to pay their bills, go to the doctor when they need to, and be with a loved one at the doctor, maybe go on vacation once in a while and be able to retire with a sense of dignity, not being a burden on some other relative or anybody else in society.
Turning back into the negotiations, do you think that the union believes that the district is working in good faith and would be able to afford that 5% raise?
I believe the district can afford that 5% raise. I believe they can easily afford something where we could find an agreement in the middle zone that I've talked about before. I believe that because of the monies that are typically allocated every year that some of which end up in a reserve account because they were not necessarily needed. I just think that it's time to put that teacher salary piece as the first priority and then find what other ways that they have in order to fund that and to make necessary allowances elsewhere, because it is objectively teachers that make the biggest difference in the classroom where their students are concerned, where they meet them every day.
Yeah, I mean, they're in front of our future generations 5 days out of the week. So what do you think this says about the negotiations, that it has to get here, that it has to get to this step? And then what is the next step?
I think it says that as the leader of the Classroom Teachers Association, I and our bargaining team are committed to advocating for the needs of our education professionals who are doing this heavy lifting to see to it that the next generation of students, when they become adults, are capable and well-educated leaders in their communities. I can't speak to the other side. I do know what I see when I meet teachers every day, or maybe not every day, but when I meet teachers every week in their classrooms, in their schools, when I'm out on doing visits. They want to do this work, but they don't want to have to worry about how they're going to pay their bills. They don't want to have to look for a second job. They literally want to be able to devote their full energy to the task in front of them, and that is their students each day that they're in school.
Does it feel like maybe that not a priority? Is that kind of the feeling as the Classroom Teachers Association is feeling here in Palm Beach County?
That's a statement that I've made at school board meetings, that teacher salaries need to be one of those first priorities. And I did make the case in one of our bargaining sessions recently. When I watch other bargaining sessions and I hear statements such as, just because we have a growing budget doesn't mean we have money left over for salaries, I'm really concerned about those two words, left over, because that in and of itself sounds like they're looking to cover the other things first, and if they have enough left, they'll give a better salary increase to their employees. When, like I've said already here today, the most important factor through research in a student's success in the classroom is a highly effective teacher in front of them every day. And I do fear that we will lose some of those if salaries can't keep pace with inflation and allow teachers to build a better life.
And a couple of last questions here. What does it feel like, or what is your take on those important teachers, right? What happens if they move on? What is the impact that has on the next generation, where they might not have the most engaging teachers that get the best out of their students?
If great teachers move on, there might be a circumstance where other individuals will come in, but great teachers hit their stride after a few years in the classroom, where things become almost second nature and they have a deep knowledge of their content. And so then you're right back to retraining individuals. That takes extra time. That takes extra money to go through that necessary training to get to that point of high excellence as a classroom teacher. And then you're back to the same question we're having today, if their salaries haven't kept pace for them. And you know, without going any further, that's the vicious cycle that we find ourselves in, that I think we can get out of if we can go ahead and prioritize salaries for teachers the way we should.
And the last question that Matt had was kind of circling back to the impasse. Is an impasse common? Is reaching an impasse common? Is this stage rare air kind of?
Here in Palm Beach County, impasses are rather rare. Impasse happens in some school district in Florida almost every year. That doesn't necessarily happen in every school district repeated years. I count it a privilege that we've not had too many here in Palm Beach County, and so that's nice. But on the other hand, it still doesn't mean that we're doing everything that we can. And in this particular case, in this year, I think we need to do more. I think the teachers are worth more, and I think the students are worth more to guarantee that they have their highly effective teachers in front of them on a regular basis.
I have one last question. Do you think there's a price tag on teaching the youth?
Tough question. I grew up in a time when I thought education in my family and in society was valued extremely highly. And that drove me to simply want to do my best each and every day. I believe that the teachers that I know here in Palm Beach County believe that same thing, but they also feel like it's not so much a want, it's a need to be able to get the amount of compensation that allows them to focus completely on education. I've talked with teachers. I've talked with one who I asked, when I found out they had a second job, I said, do you have that job of necessity, or do you have that job just to maybe give yourself some more flexibility outside the regular day? And they said a little bit of both. And yet on top of that, I've heard stories from teachers about they've met some of their students on the weekend as they were selling tickets at the movie theater because they did not have the compensation that they needed from their 5-day-a-week job. So, I mean, that's where it is. I think we give good heart and head knowledge to the value of education, but when the chips are down and it gets tough, I think sometimes it's a little easy to do that easy thing and say, yeah, we just can't give that big of a raise this year. Y'all are going to have to fall further behind your cost of living. That's just not something I can accept. And I certainly know that the teachers of Palm Beach County, with their excellent track record, they don't deserve that.